Good evening. Welcome to the Township of Woolwich Committee of the Whole meeting on Tuesday, April 18th, 2023. We are now live on YouTube. I will now do a roll call of council. I, Councillor Cadeau, am present and chairing this meeting. Mayor Shantz.
Present.
Councillor Bryant.
Present.
Councillor Burgess.
Present.
Councillor Grant.
Present.
Councillor Schwint.
Present.
Thank you. I want to acknowledge the land on which we live has been here from time immemorial, and that Indigenous people have lived here from time immemorial. I thank the Shantz, also called the Attawattaron, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee people who have lived here and cared for this land and continue to share and steward this land with us. May we together learn to care for each other, our flora and our fauna, and the land that sustains us. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. We do have one public meeting on schedule tonight. This meeting does constitute a formal public meeting required under section 1.9.1.2 of the Ontario Building Code. This formal meeting is to consider the building permit fees and changes bylaw. The purpose of this meeting is to provide information and to receive comments from the public. I declare the public meeting to be open. Now, for the benefit of council, the item that we will be reviewing is F12-2023, the fees and changes bylaw amendment. Nick Racanelli is here, the chief building official in person, who is available for questions. Lori Fox and Richard Pletherick are also with us virtually, should you have any questions. So I suppose this question is for council. Are there any questions for staff as it relates to the fees and charges bylaw amendment? Seeing none. Mr. Clerk, is there anyone who would like to speak for this public meeting?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, there are no unregistered speakers tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. There is a recommendation in the report. Is there anyone who would like to move the recommendation? Councillor Grant, seconded by Councillor Burgess. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. I declare the public meeting to be closed. We'll move on to the next portion of the meeting. We have no presentations tonight. There are no unfinished business items. There are no items on consent, and there are no items pulled from the information package. There are several memos and staff reports. The first one is a memo on National Volunteer Week 2023. Marie Malcolm, the Community Programs and Inclusion Coordinator, is here virtually to walk us through. Hi, Marie.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair. This memo has been prepared to give Council an overview of how the Township of Woolwich is highlighting National Volunteer Week. This week is set aside each year to recognize and thank volunteers for the time and energy they contribute to causes that benefit our communities. The National Volunteer Week theme for 2023 is Volunteering Weaves Us Together. This reveals the importance of volunteering to the strength and vibrancy of our communities through interconnected actions taken to support one another. Tomorrow, Wednesday, April 19th, we will be hosting an in-person volunteer appreciation celebration at the Woolwich Memorial Center from 7 to 8:30 p.m. We welcome all those who volunteer in various capacities within the Township of Woolwich to attend the celebration. The evening will consist of live music performed by Tea for Two, light refreshments provided by Dyer Sweet and Never Enough Time, and an opportunity to socialize with others. We thank all volunteers who strengthen the fabric of our community through kindness, generosity, and commitment. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Ms. Malcolm? Mayor Shantz?
Not a question, really, just a comment. Thank you to all our volunteers. I have regional council tomorrow night, so I won't be able to make it, but hopefully some of the councillors will be able to be there to say thank you in person. The volunteers are really the strength of our township, and we wouldn't be who we are without them. So thanks to all of them.
Thank you, Mayor Shantz. Any other questions, comments? I do have one question. The event tomorrow night, is it a come and go type event? Volunteers can come at any time throughout the evening?
Yep. To you, Chair Cadeau, yes, it's just a drop-in event. So you volunteers are welcome to come anytime between 7 and 8:30 tomorrow night.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And I'll just echo Mayor Shantz's comment. One thing that I have been communicating with a lot of the residents here is just how floored I am by the volunteer base that Woolwich has, a strong but mighty volunteer base. So much appreciation to that group. And yeah, I look forward to meeting a lot of those individuals in person tomorrow night. So thank you very much for that. We do have another memo. Deputy Chief Building Official is what the memo is about. We have Nick Riccinelli, the Chief Building Official, in person today to walk us through that memo.
Evening, Chair Bro and other members. The purpose is to advise council on the repurposing of the vacant building official position to a deputy chief building official position. Just some background. In May 2023, one of the township building officials left the township for a position elsewhere. This left one vacant position and the current staff complement within the building division. So rather than post the position immediately, staff delayed the posting to examine the function of the division and determined that it could be more appropriate to rehire the vacant position as a deputy chief building official. So just more background, the township building division is currently comprised of one chief building official, myself, Nick Riccinelli, 5 building officials, and 1 administrative technical assistant. One additional vacant position exists, however, at the request of council. Before hiring staff, we would return to council with a report and a justification. With the departure of one of the building officials, staff examined the function of the division and determined a repurposing of this position is most beneficial to the township and the development services department. The deputy chief building official position will result in the more strategic value for the township for the following reasons. The position will provide backup to the chief building official. The chief building official is the only appointed position that can issue permits. In the event that the chief building official has an unexpected absence, permits cannot be issued until a suitable replacement is appointed by council, thus resulting in a delay to township customers. The deputy position would also be able to cover chief building official vacations with minimal disruption to service. The position will provide support to the chief building official for training and supervision of staff within the building division. The building division is self-funded, therefore the position's repurposing will have no impact on the tax base. Also, as we noted, we've had an increase in the number of permits issued and the number of required inspections in the past 5 years. The difference in salary is from a range of $68,177 to $85,222 for the building official, to a deputy CBO salary range of $83,006 to $103,757, with the top end difference of $18,000. In terms of succession planning, currently there's no differentiation from the building officials regardless of ability or experience. Municipalities are experiencing high turnovers of staff and a shortage of experienced building officials. The deputy position would create an opportunity for staff to move up within the division, and this would help in attracting and retaining long-term candidates in the future. It also allows delegation of some duties assigned to the chief building official under the building code to manage the workload and meet legislated timelines. The official position will be advertised tomorrow, the 19th, and will close on May 5th. Also for information, the position will be placed in a level 6 job grade, which is 2 levels above the building official. The posting is contained in the report here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from council? Councillor Burgess.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Cadeau, to the Chief Building Officer. Just couple quick questions, just for clarity. Once this one's posted and filled, we still have one more vacant position that you're talking about, or is this that one? Okay.
This is replacing the vacant position.
Go ahead.
So I think what Councillor Burgess is asking, and you dealt with this earlier, is that there's still one additional position that was approved by a prior council that will come back with in the fall to justify.
Oh, that I didn't know. I'm just, the one position that was a resignation. Looking to as a
yeah.
deputy. So there's another position that I might not be aware of.
Sorry, that's the one that you mentioned in the report earlier,
Yes.
that during the budget process,
Okay.
the previous council had approved a certain staff complement in terms of additional inspectors. One was hired during the previous council term towards the end. The other one was supposed to be hired this fall. But council would be familiar with this. I think it was at the request of Councillor Schwint, which was supported by council, said, hey, we're seeing some change in terms of building activity. Could you bring a rejustification back in the fall? So yeah, just to have a picture here. Sorry, I don't even have my screen on. Just to have a picture here for council and the public at home. Yeah, this would be a repurposing of someone who just left. Councillor Burgess, to your question. The other one, that's still the subject of a report in the fall.
Thanks for that. Do you have a follow-up?
If that's all right.
Please.
Got 2 follow-ups. Just for clarification, again, you talk about if you're off sick or something, that council would need to appoint someone to issue the permits. How does that work when you're on like a 2-week vacation or something? Is there an acting chief in the interim that you can appoint, or how does that work for longer absences?
Well, before I started there, one of the other building officials was appointed before I started. So after the previous CBO left. So during when I'm gone, we would the deputy CBO would be appointed to, in my absence, or even if I'm there, can take over some of the duties of issuing permits.
Right, I'm thinking before there was a deputy, like before this position, we just had the regular chief plus
The
the
building
others.
official was then considered or appointed as the acting.
So we'd always have a second in command that basically could step in.
Technically, yes, but they weren't the chief. They were just appointed to as acting.
Right.
While I'm gone.
To issue permits and that.
Mhm.
Okay. And last one, if I may, Chair. Can current staff also apply for this position? Is this being opened up to?
Yeah, my understanding is we'll be advertising internally and externally.
Yes. That's what the deal with the succession planning would be. Better to keep staff if they know they can improve themselves and get a higher paying job, as opposed to just going to another municipality that advertises for higher salary, which is happening all over. I mean, there's just a big whirlwind of staff are moving all over just for higher pay or better working conditions, right? So if there's something that they can look up to, we might retain more staff.
Questions, comments? Councillor Schwint.
Yeah, I guess I am struggling with this one a little bit, coming through a difficult budgeting process. We're worried about costs, worried about what building permits may look like going forward. And to add another layer of management, I'm struggling with a little bit. And your comments duly noted about attracting people, or more importantly, retaining people. And are we better off having a deputy? Or are we better off trying to retain all 4 or 5 people and make sure their wages are appropriate for the conditions. Currently, with the way we're sitting right now, I think we're just adding more layers without any benefit and adding costs. So I am struggling with this.
If I could add on to the comment, perhaps with a question, is there any difference in qualifications between a building official and the deputy chief building official?
Generally, there's more knowledge base, more in terms of the BCAN numbers. They have more courses that they've passed, and also a bit of a supervisory experience usually in another another municipality. Whereas if they were senior inspectors or something like that. Other than that, it's one step up and one step down from my position. The best part of it is that with their extra knowledge, they can help when I'm not around, and also with training staff. And as we get busier, the training gets longer terms, and we need extra help from myself so that I can get all my duties completed also.
Any other comments or questions? Now, this is just a memo, so there is no recommendation on this. So if there are no further questions, we can move on to the next report. So the third, sorry, I didn't see you. I didn't look though, so I guess I should have probably looked. Sorry,
And I was-
Councillor Schwint.
I'm slow on this one because I'm digesting this as a decision, but at the same time, Councillor Burgess, I think had some concerns. I've got some concerns. I'm not totally against this, but at the same time, I'm not having the warm and fuzzies. I'm not too sure if council should have a little further discussion on what this means for the department, both budget wise and personnel wise. And if this is a direction we think is going to be helpful to the township longer term. I'm looking further.
Further commentary on that, Councillor Bryant?
Just to be clear, this is no cost to the township. This is self-funding through the building department. So we would see no increase in any way, shape or form. Is that correct?
That is my understanding, but
Yes, it goes
perhaps,
through the permit applications. Sorry.
thanks.
I can give you some numbers for our permits to show the increase that we've had since 2018. If anybody would like to hear them. Excuse me. So in 2018, we had the total permits issued was 525 with a construction value of 78 million. And number of inspections was 2,900. In 2019, which was a very big year, we had 801 permits issued with a value of 175 million. 2020, though, with COVID, things went down a bit. So we only had 662 permits issued with a value of 127. And then it started to creep up again in 2021 with permits issued, 732 permits issued with a value of 172 million. And inspections has gone up to 3,800 required inspections for that year. And 2022, we had total permits issued was 633 with a value of 143 million, with the number of required inspections 4,500. So there's generally an increase since 2018. So that would cover the cost of 18,000, as I said, was the difference at the top end of the salary ranges.
Thank you, Councillor Schwint.
I strongly disagree with the comments. This has no effect on our costs. Building department self-funding, yes. So that just means building permit costs have to go up to self-fund them. It's got no effect on the levy. There's one taxpayer in this township. They have to pay for extra costs. So we can't say it's a freebie.
Mayor Shantz?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for those statistics. Just a question on the number of inspections. It went up a lot in 22. What would have caused that increase because the actual number of permits was down, or was that a carryover from the previous year?
It could have been. Well, the number of dwelling units was about 115, so that's basically 150 new homes. It could be because the complexity of some of the homes or the values are higher. Sometimes they require re-inspections. It all depends on the builders. You know, if they're a better builder, they usually progressive and the inspections are completed quickly, but if the inspectors need, if the builders need more attention, they need to go back 2 or 3 times to get something done right.
Councillor Grant?
Thank you, through you, Chair. I think that actually was brought up in Deanne's report as well about the restructuring of fees of bylaw, that they noted that there were numerous re-inspections that had to take place. So I imagine that's where that difference is coming from.
Seeing no further hands, do we have a motion? Do we want to motion, Councillor
I
Swin?
don't know if it's a motion, but suggestion I would put out there is that if we're hiring a building official now, why not fill the complement of people? And this fall, we're gonna hear, do we need an additional person or not? See where we land this fall. And then internally, we look at the little candidates, we look like we want to maintain our existing staff complement, we want to promote from within. Once we have that full complement, see if we can, if we do need a deputy, we look internally first and promote internally. That's the goal here versus hosting, getting external complement, external applicant that may disrupt things. And again, I'm just not convinced we need that additional layer. That's a suggestion I have. I also know that we're stepping into the CAO's realm in terms of governance, so gotta be careful.
Perhaps the CAO would like to speak to that. And if not, I won't put him on the spot, but maybe just a little.
Yeah, so I'll cover this off. So the reason that this is here and it's more of a memo is because it's a mini reorganization, which is in the purview of senior management or the CAO's office. However, we're trying to be politically astute around the fact that we know that council weighed in on the whole building officials level of inspections, et cetera. And so in fairness, we didn't feel comfortable just using the straight reorg powers that would normally happen and to just move ahead with this because, you know, there is a financial implication. However, you know, I think we do have to remember that the only reason that building permit fees have to go up is if our costs are not being covered by our existing fee complement. We have a building reserve fund that can be dipped into to be able to cover off costs, you know, and Mr. Petherick can speak to that. That's what the building reserve fund is there for. You know, it's also there in downtimes to be able to actually cover the costs for your existing staff complement. I mean, the one thing I don't know that we've really covered off with this council that we ran into last time when we had difficulty recruiting was that we had to hire a private firm to actually cover our inspection. And it was at significantly higher a cost than a regular staff cost would be in terms of salary and hourly wage. And I'm not sure, you know, we've covered off that in the report in the sense that certainly what we're trying to do here, I know, and Deanne's looking ahead with her new chief building official is how do we solidify the complement and the structure in such a way that yes, we're going to keep staff, but we also can recruit good staff and create that stability so that we don't have to go and use this private sector firm at twice the cost, at twice the wage, really. That's what it worked out to be. Now, you know, full transparency, you know, as our CBO has acknowledged, it is a competitive market and it has been for years. Ever since they made the changes, the province made changes years ago to how building inspections work and the level of qualifications, et cetera. It's been a really tough market. So I'm not saying that we may not have to get there in the future when we're trying to fill even basic frontline building inspector vacancies, but that could occur. So, so yes, you are veering into a certain area. However, I've explained why it is here, because there is a financial impact. We wanted to be transparent because of the budget process. And, you know, I think we just have, may have a difference of opinion on how the building reserve fund is set up and how it can be utilized, you know, from that standpoint. But I think what our CBO is also trying to indicate is, you know, because I've heard this come up, you know, in previous councils is, well, the last thing we want to do though is draw down too much on the building reserve fund so that we don't have enough funds in there in order to, you know, deal with downtimes that exist. But I think Mr. Petherick, you know, would be able to comment on the fact that our building reserve fund is healthy at this stage. So that's the extent of my comments right now. But just like during the budget process, certainly, you know, council can make a decision if they feel that they don't agree with the direction. But you know, you've heard the reasons and rationale. It's up to you as to whether you support them in terms of the direction that we would like to proceed from an organizational structure standpoint.
Thank you, Mr. Brenneman. Mayor Shantz.
Thank you. I appreciate Councillor Schwintz's point of view, and I think this is something that we're going to have to struggle with in different ways over the next 4 years as we grow and things are going to move. At least I anticipate they're going to move ahead a lot faster than they had in the past, and so we're going to have to sort of figure out when that ideal time is to make that move to grow. And you know, is this the right time? I guess that's what, I mean, that's staff's call, and unless we tell them that we really don't like what they're doing. But just to say that we're going to have to come to terms with that in the next 4 years.
I suppose my question would be, is this a permanent hire? Are we, or is this kind of a temporary contract that we're filling? It's permanent? Yeah, okay. I suppose the secondary question to that is, we're going to be taking a building official out of rotation and replacing it with the deputy chief building official. How is that going to affect the building officials that would be remaining on staff? So those 4 individuals.
Through the chair. So we're not really removing, they'll still be conducting their inspections. Part of their other duties will be to fill in when I'm not there, to assist in training any new staff, but they will continue to learn and to grow with the municipality in an inspector role, but having these extra duties. May not be a full inspection route as some of the other inspectors, but they still be doing inspections.
So they would be doing inspections and they would be taking on additional administrative work through their additional roles. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And if I can add a few things,
Please.
The reason I think this is a good move, because it is very hard to find quality staff. And in my previous position in St. Catharines, staff would continually move around, not only because of money, but depending on the climate there. So having this sort of position, it creates a good atmosphere in the municipality. People want to move up. People want to try new roles. People want to, you know, move up to get, you know, my position also, a deputy who person who wants to be a deputy CBO wants to be eventually a CBO. So depending on how things shift, they may not last for 10 years, but they might be here for quite a few years and then move on to another position. And then the next building official would try for the position and move up again. So it creates a bit of a, I think it creates a good work ethic within the department.
All right, thank you for that. I suppose we are going to be hearing in the fall about the new position coming up. I suppose a follow-up on how this position is unfolding could be warranted as well, just to make sure, I mean, not that we would go back on it at any point, but at least we can have that conversation and just make sure that things are going as planned. Any other comments, questions, Councillor Bryant.
Thank you. With the changes that the Ford government's making through all their bills and cutting of fees and everything, are any of the building fees affected by what is being proposed by the Ford government? Like, are we going to lose any of that funding, or is that going to remain intact going forward?
In terms of the planning fees or the,
Any fees at all? I'm not sure, because there's been so many changes. I just want to make sure that our building department's not going to start losing some of the money that they're bringing in at this point in time to be able to fund.
I can't speak of the planning fees. I don't know all about, other than the building permit fees would increase because of the volume of homes being built.
Talking about whether we're gonna lose buildings.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I'm not aware of
Not that I know of.
There's been so many changes. I'm just not sure anymore.
development charges.
Thank you.
Okay. Final call, questions, comments, observations, general nuisances. Sorry, that last one was probably uncalled for. If that's the case, we will move on then to the next report, DS 18-2023, the renewal of temporary use bylaw zone change 2-2023. 1066626 Ontario Limited and Marhome Farms Limited. So David Ganundrum, the planner, is here virtually. We also have Peter McFadden, a representative from Max Golf Center, who is present to answer any questions virtually as well. Mr. Ganundrum.
Thank you, Councillor Cadeau. Councillor Cadeau, members of council. Just to refresh, this application proposes a 3-year extension of a temporary use bylaw on the subject property, which has been the site of Max's Sports World Golf Center since 1991. Subject lands are located at 790 and 800 King Street North within the Stockyard Industrial Commercial area, which is south of St. Jacobs. The purpose of the application, again, is to extend the temporary use bylaw for an additional 3-year period to allow Max's Golf Center to use a 1.2 hectare parcel owned by Marhome Farms Limited as a golf driving range, while Marhome's Farms Limited will continue to use a 1.6 hectare parcel, which is reciprocally owned by the golf center for farming. Township staff have no objection to the proposed extension, as the respective lands are continuing to be used for the driving range and farming purposes. The current orientation of the driving range is the most effective method for containing golf balls on the property. I'll note that public meeting was held back on March 21st of 2023, at which point in time no issues were identified. A copy of the minutes to that meeting can be found under attachment 4 to our report. Again, staff are recommending approval of the 3-year extension of temporary use bylaw to allow for this reciprocal arrangement between the two properties and the two owners to continue. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that members of council may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gundrum. I do see a question here. So Councillor Grant.
Thank you. Through your chair to Mr. Gundrum. I'm just wondering about the 3 years, and this has been a partnership from the looks of it for almost 20 years. So I'm just wondering if there's a logic between the 3 years, or not, like offering a 5-year extension or a 7-year or even a 10-year.
Through the chair, Councillor Grant, this has been the pattern of use over the course of the past several decades at this point. Whenever usually a temporary use bylaw is extended for a 3-year period, that's kind of a standard period of time. I mean, certainly council at its discretion could offer a different period of time, perhaps a longer period of time, given the historic pattern of use that's occurred among the properties here. But it has gone on as 3-year blocks of time. That way it can come back in any given council or term of council for further consideration. The idea is that these temporary use bylaws are, by virtue of the word, they're meant to be temporary, and a 3-year period allows for consideration by each successive council in their respective terms to judge whether the temporary nature of the use is still appropriate with respect to the site and to the bylaw and to general compatibility. So does that help answer your question, Councillor Grant?
Yes, absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Mayor Shantz?
Thank you for that description, Mr. Gundrum. I wonder if the 3 years then was from when councils were 3 years? Because this will come back again. If it comes in 3 years, it'll be to this council still. So I wonder if it should be 4 years. I don't know. Mr. Brenneman, do you have any insight?
I think I'd ask David if he recalls in the Planning Act, you know, from my recollection, I don't think it had any tie to when councils were for 3 years. But I think generally speaking, over my career, I've seen 3 years kind of be the guideline that's used for, you know, the temporary time frame. I mean, I think what council can see from this report, it's kind of an unusual circumstance. You know, as the staff have outlined, you know, in the report in this evening, it's only because one part of the parcel of land doesn't fit within, you know, the proper land use designation and zoning that we're really in this situation. So, you know, in the fullness of time, I think also in the fullness of understanding the recent announcement of the approval of the regional official plan, it'll be interesting to see how all of this area and around the stockyards, et cetera, will develop.
Mr. Gundrum?
Through the chair, I will offer that the 3-year period is actually a maximum which is stipulated in the Planning Act. So it's a control that's enforced through Section 39, I believe it is, of the Planning Act, which states that a temporary use bylaw can only be extended for a period of up to and including 3 years. I just wanted to make that clarification. So maybe ignoring prior statements where I said maybe it's at council's discretion to extend further than that. There is a statutory limit in the Planning Act which says that it can only be for a period of up to 3 years. I just want to clarify.
Thanks for that clarification, Mayor Shantz. Thank you. We have a mover on the floor. Is there a seconder? Seconder, thank you very much. Further discussion? No, all those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. All right, that brings us to the next report, DS 19-2023, zone change for /2023, the 1231 Sean Station Road, Inc. So Mr. Gundrum, you are back to walk us through this one as well. We also have a consultant, Mr. Rob Stovall Sr., here to answer any questions that council may have. Mr. Gundrum.
Thank you, Councillor Cadeau. I'm just going to share screen here just to speak to a few images that are in the agenda to help illustrate the concept. So I'm just going to put this up on screen for everybody. Can everyone see the images there?
Yes.
Great. So just to refresh council again, previously on March 21st of 2023, a public meeting was held pursuant to the Planning Act to consider a zoning change for the subject property located at 1625 Kossuth Road. The applicants are proposing to amend the existing site-specific section 26.1.308 of the zoning bylaw to establish a new use being a multi-use bunkhouse structure shown here on the site plan image before you. The bunkhouse is proposed to be of a size of approximately 800 square meters to house up to 30 full-time seasonal foreign workers who will support the existing sod farm operations on the subject property. In their submission, the applicants have indicated a location for the bunkhouse that would be clustered in proximity to the main farm operation buildings to the south. The location of the bunkhouse structure would conform to the MDS, or minimum distance separation setbacks. It would also be located outside of the noise exposure impacts from the Waterloo International Airport located to the west of the subject property. The associated area of operation for the bunkhouse would include an internal laneway, outdoor parking, as well as space to accommodate private services being well and septic system. The lands in this case otherwise form part of an open field area, which is located adjacent to the main sod farm operations located to the south. In their submission, the applicants have demonstrated that the proposed redevelopment is within a portion of the site that would meet all the associated requirements of the agricultural zone, as well as the noted MDS and setbacks from the airport. The concept plan provided would also include an overall area of operation of approximately 0.6 hectares, shown here being approximately 1.5 acres to accommodate for the use and all the associated supporting features. So again, staff are recommending approval of the application and history visit from the public meeting held several weeks back. The applicant council expressed some questions and concerns regarding the bunkhouse development, and in response, the applicant confirmed that the bunkhouse will be designed to modern standards with living and washroom facilities shown here on the internal floor plan. As well, the design has been drafted in consultation with the structural engineer and the local public health unit. The bunkhouse will contain single beds that are contained within separate internal bedrooms shown on the floor plan before you. And again, the bunkhouse is intended to house up to a maximum of 30 seasonal foreign workers who would support sod farm operations during the main growing and harvest seasons. And to summarize, the zone change was required as the proposed bunkhouse use is not a defined or permitted use currently in the township zoning bylaw. And the applicants have also provided some scaled elevation drawings just to illustrate what the bunkhouse will look like, that it's intended that it will resemble a farm building and blend with what would typically one would expect in terms of the design aesthetic to be representative on a farm property as part of a farm building cluster. So again, to summarize, staff are recommending approval of the site-specific amendment to the existing site-specific zoning for the property within the agricultural zone, and staff are on hand as well as the applicant's agent, Mr. Stovall, to help answer any questions that members of council may have. And I'll stop share screen at this point and turn it back over to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gundrum. Are there any questions or comments from council for staff or from Mr. Stovall? I didn't have my microphone on there, sorry. Questions or comments, Councillor Bryant?
Thank you. Through you to David Gundrum. Are we doing 2 persons per bedroom? Is that what the number's slated to be? That's what it looks like, but I just want to clarify.
Through the chair, Councillor Bryant, my understanding is that at maximum occupancy, given the number of bedrooms, there would be a need for a sharing of quarters, but perhaps I'll also let Mr. Stovall, who's on hand, to fill in some of those blanks as well.
Mr. Stovall?
There you go. Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, that's the intent, a maximum of 2 per those units. But it's not the case that they're all going to be occupied, you know, so it might end up being just 1, but it's designed to allow for 2.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? No, there is a recommendation in the report. Is there anyone who would like to move it? Councillor Schwint, seconded by Councillor Bryant. Further discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. So it's not that I just forgot to turn on my microphone, it just cut off on me, but I think that it's going to work to get us through the rest here. There is no other business. Oh, I guess I should ask, is there any other business, Mayor Shantz?
Yeah, I just, I've had two counselors ask me about the possibility of changing meetings to twice a week. Yeah, no, that's not what they asked for. Twice a month, as opposed to our current rotation that's 2 weeks on, 1 week off. And I guess I would ask the rest of council, is that something that you want staff to consider? And bring back a report on what that might look like?
Seeing a couple nods, I would be comfortable with at least exploring that further. I don't know if anybody else wants to weigh in.
Can you clarify what they mean by twice a month? Like what are they looking for?
The region has switched to this. So one week we have committee, and then a break week, and then council. And then, so there's only two meeting nights a week. Now, I will say that right now our committee days start at 9, and the last one I had to leave early. It went till 7:30. So they were a lot longer. So I think that's one of the things we'd have to consider is whether we can get through our work in a reasonable length of time, and maybe when our start times are.
So could we be starting earlier on those days versus a 7 o'clock start, maybe a 5 o'clock start type of thing, if it's a long meeting, or what are we suggesting? I guess I'm looking for more details.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose that would be what the staff report would come back and kind of make recommendations on. You know, this is coming at the request of council, not necessarily at the request of staff. So we would have to have them weigh in to make sure that this would be even feasible for them to explore, right? So does that help at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And while we've got council around the table, then can people start earlier? That I see a no.
I can, but
What is earlier than 7, earlier than 6, like
Earlier than 7.
yeah, whatever would work. I'm just curious.
okay. Clerk Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had heard some comments from council. So what I was thinking of doing is my staff would bring back a report to council where before we set the agenda for 2024, we would sort of bring up the parameters we usually use, which is, you know, two meetings and a break. What we've added for this year for 2023 was special public meetings for planning matters. And a lot of that's to deal with, I think it's Bill 109. I get confused with them too, but I think that's Bill 109. I guess my question to the council is, if we brought forward a report, let's say in June, before we developed a sample meeting schedule for 2024 for you to consider, is that soon enough? Or are you even thinking of modifying or wanting to modify the schedule for the remainder of this year?
Councillor Grant.
Thank you. Through you. I think June would be suitable. I think we've already established that we needed those extra planning meetings. So I don't know if I'd necessarily be comfortable in this year modifying the schedule, and instead kind of keep that schedule and look forward to the future year.
Thank you, Councillor Schwinn.
Yeah, I think the summer ones would be tough to change because of that. But at the same time, I'm not sure that September onwards isn't within the realm of possibility to switch schedules. I know in 2024, based on budget this year, January, we're going to be meeting twice a week for that month. That's just fair game. But I think it also costs us at least $3,000 a night for council to come in for a meeting. So if we can reduce 3, 4, 5 meetings a year, that's the money we're savings, plus senior management's time taking up their evenings as well. So if we can be more efficient, I think it's worth looking into.
Any further comments on that? No? All right, thank you. Is there any other council reports or updates? No? You have another business item? Okay, well, you're gonna have to wait.
All right.
I'm just kidding.
That's fine.
Is it the next line? A standing activity list. That's not that, right?
Well, because
How about I throw it to you, David?
As soon as I can get my screen on here. So I was actually going to segue off of the outstanding activity list and say, well, this has never been on the official outstanding activity list, previous councils, and this council is aware that one of the things on our continued list is to monitor the availability of the former Riverside Public School. And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't use the opportunity where it was announced this week by the government of Ontario in terms of legislation that they've brought forward, that they're looking to, I'll say it this way, free up opportunities with respect to surplus land that may be in the school board system to fill and fit the agenda of trying to find a suitable, affordable housing, supportive housing sites. Certainly what I'm hoping for us, because we've expressed a strong interest ever since the opening of the new Riverside School, that we think the redevelopment of the, considering the location in Elmira of the former Riverside School would be ideal, even before the big push on affordability. And so, to that end, we remain optimistic that this legislation hopefully will help with the impetus to renew those discussions to bring the matters forward, because I think, if we've learned anything with the crisis that, we certainly are in with affordable supportive housing is in the past, housing matters were always said, oh, that's an upper tier matter that the region deals with. But yeah.
Back on it.
Back on. As we found with the former Kiwanis House site, no, I mean, we can be part of the solution as well. So I think it'll be interesting to renew those discussions with the school board and see how we can leverage the province's latest move this week for that opportunity. So just because we had a current council meeting, I thought it was an opportunity to say, hey, it's not on our outstanding activity list, but it might as well be. It's something we continue to monitor.
Thank you for that. Yeah, some exciting news coming out of the provincial government, and hopefully we can build on some of that momentum here in Woolwich. So thank you again for that. Now I'll bridge into some of the outstanding activity list. Is there any discussion on any of the outstanding items? Seeing none, there is no notice of motion. So that brings us to adjournment, and the Leafs have dropped the puck. So anytime, people. Thank you, Councillor Schwint. Can I get a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Burgess. All those in favor? And that is carried. So in closing, council would like to thank all those who participated or tuned into this meeting tonight on our YouTube live stream. I will remind council to please stay connected until we receive confirmation that the live stream has stopped. Good night, everyone, and go Leafs go.